So you see, we have this wire evidently affecting the magnetic needle under these circumstances. Let me show you that a little more strongly. I have here a quantity of wire, which has been wound into a spiral, and this will affect the magnetic needle in a very curious manner, because, owing to its shape, it will act very like a real magnet. The copper spiral has no power over that magnetic needle at present, but if I cause the electric current to circulate through it, by bringing the two ends of the battery in contact with the ends of the wire which forms the spiral, what will happen? Why, one end of the needle is most powerfully drawn to it, and if I take the other end of the needle, it is repelled. So you see, I have produced exactly the same phenomena as I had with the bar magnet, one end attracting and the other repelling. Is not this, then, curious, to see that we can construct a magnet of copper? Furthermore, if I take an iron bar and put it inside the coil, so long as there is no electric current circulating around, it has no attraction, as you will observe if I bring a little iron filings or nails near the iron. But now, if I make contact with the battery, they are attracted at once. It becomes at once a powerful magnet, so much so that I should not wonder if these magnetic needles on different parts of the table pointed to it. And I will show you by another experiment what an attraction it has. This piece and that piece of iron and many other pieces are now strongly attracted to it. But as soon as I break contact, the power is all gone and they fall. What then can be a better or stronger proof than this of the relation of the powers of magnetism and electricity? Again, here is a little piece of iron which is not yet magnetized. It will not at present take up any of these nails, but I will take a piece of wire and coil it round the iron, the wire being covered with cotton in every part. It does not touch the iron, so that the current must go round in this spiral coil. I am, in fact, preparing an electromagnet. We are obliged to use such terms to express our meaning because it is a magnet made by electricity, because we produce, by the force of electricity, a magnet of far greater power than a permanent steel one. It is now completed, and I will repeat the experiment which you saw the other day of building up a bridge of iron nails. The contact is now made, and the current is going through. It is now a powerful magnet. Here are the iron nails which we had the other day, and now I have brought this magnet near them. They are clinging so hard that I can scarcely move them with my hand. But when the contact is broken, see how they fall. What can show you better than such an experiment as this, the magnetic attraction from which we have endowed these portions of iron? Here, again, is a fine illustration of this strong power of magnetism. It is a magnet of the same sort as the one you have just seen. I am about to make the current of electricity pass through the wires which are round this iron for the purpose of showing you what powerful effects we get. Here are the poles of the magnet, and let us place on one of them this long bar of iron. You see, as soon as contact is made, how it rises in position. And if I take such a piece of this cylinder and place it on, woe be to me if I get my finger between. I can roll it over, but if I try to pull it off, I might lift up the whole magnet. But I have no power to overcome the magnetic power, which is here evident. I might give you an infinity of illustrations of this high magnetic power. There is that long bar of iron held out, and I have no doubt that, if I were to examine the other end, I should find that it was a magnet. See what power it must have to support not only these nails, but all those lumps of iron hanging onto the end. What then can surpass these evidences of the change of electric force into electricity and electricity into magnetism? I might show you many other experiments whereby I could obtain electricity and chemical action, heat and light, from a magnet. But what more need I show you to prove the universal correlation of the physical forces of matter and their mutual conversion one into another? And now let us give place, as juveniles, to the respect we owe to our elders. And for a time, let me address myself to those of our seniors who have honored me with their presence during these lectures. I wish to claim this moment for the purpose of tendering our thanks to them, and my thanks to you all, for the way in which you have borne the inconvenience that I at first subjected you to. I hope that the insight which you have here gained, discovered, may be the occasion of some amongst you turning your attention to these subjects. For what study is there more fitted to the mind of man than that of the physical sciences? And what is there more capable of giving him an insight into the actions of those laws, a knowledge of which gives interest to the most trifling phenomenon of nature? Mind, tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. End of section 9. Recording by El-Hewie.
Section 10 of On the Various Forces. LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Marvin Benarescu. On the Various Forces of Nature by Michael Faraday. Lighthouse illumination, the electric light. Delivered before the Royal Institution on Friday, 9th of March, 1860. There is no part of my life which gives me more delight than my connection with the Trinity House. The occupation of nations, joined together to guide the mariner over the sea, to all a point of great interest, is infinitely more so to those who are concerned in the operations which they carry into effect, and it certainly has astonished me, since I have been connected with the Trinity House, to see how beautifully and how wonderfully shines forth amongst nations at large the desire to do good, and you will not regret having come here tonight, if you follow me, in the various attempts which have been made to carry out the great object of guiding in safety all people across the dark and dreary waste of waters. It is wonderful to think how eagerly efforts at improvement are made by the various public bodies, the Trinity House in this country, and commissions in France and other nations, and whilst the improvements progress, we come to the knowledge of such curious difficulties, and such odd modes of getting over those difficulties, as are not easy to be conceived. I must ask you this evening to follow me from the simplest possible method of giving a sign by means of a light to persons at a distance, to the modes at which we have arrived in the present day, and to consider the difficulties which arise when carrying out these improvements to a practical result, and the extraordinary care which those who have to judge on these points must take in order to guard against the too hasty adoption of some fancied improvement, thus, as has happened in some few cases, doing harm instead of good. If I try to make you understand these things partly by old models, and partly by those which we have here, it is only that I may the better be enabled to illustrate that which I look forward to as the higher mode of lighting, by means of the electric lamp and the limelight. There is nothing more simple than a candle being set down in a cottage window to guide a husband to his home. But when we want to make a similar guide on a large scale, not merely over a river or over a moor, but over large expanses of sea, how can we then make the signal using only a candle? I have shown in this diagram what we may imagine to be the rays of a candle or any other source of light, emanating from the center of a sphere in all directions round to infinite distances. After this simple kind of light had been used for some time, it being found to be liable to be obscured by fogs, or distance, or other circumstance, there arose the attempt to make larger lights by means of fires, and after that there was introduced a very important refinement in the mode of dealing with the light, namely, the principle of reflection, for, understand this, which is not known by all, and not known by many who should know it, that when we take a source of light, a single candle, for instance, giving off any quantity of light, we can by no means increase that light. We can make arrangements around and about the light, as you see here, but we can by no means increase the quantity of light. The utmost I can do is to direct the light which the lamp gives me, by taking a certain portion of the rays going off on one side, and reflecting them onto the course of the rays which issue in the opposite direction. First of all, let us consider how we may gather in the rays of light which pass off from this candle. You will easily see that if I could take the half rays on the one side and could send them by any contrivance over to the other side, I should gain an advantage in light on the side to which I direct them. This is effected in a beautiful manner by the parabolic mirror, by means of which I gather all that portion of the rays which are included in it, upwards, downwards, sideways, anywhere within its sphere of action. They are all picked up and sent forward. You thus see what a beautiful and important invention is that of the parabolic reflector for throwing forward the rays of light. Before I go further into the subject of reflection, let me point out a further mode of dealing with the direction of the light. For instance, here is a candle, and I can employ the principle of refraction to bend and direct the rays of light. And if I want to increase the light in any one direction, I must either take a reflector or use the principle of refraction. I will place this lens in front of the candle, and you will easily see that by its means I can throw onto that sheet of paper a great light. That is to say, that instead of the light being thrown all about, it is refracted and concentrated onto that paper. So here I have another means of bending the light and sending it in one direction. And you see above a still better arrangement for the same purpose, one which comes up to the maximum, I may say, of the ability of directing light by this means. You are aware that without that arrangement of glass, the light would be dispersed in all directions, but the lens being there, all the light which passes through it is thrown into parallel beams and cast horizontally along. There is consequently no loss of light. The beam goes forward of the same dimensions, and will consequently continue to go forward for 5 or 10 miles, or so long as the imperfection of the atmosphere does not absorb it. And see what a glorious power that is, to be able to convert what was